What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a vintage Star Wars market update. And wow, do we have some incredible items for you today. I've got everything from loose graded to ungraded mint on cards. I think I've even got a loose graded vehicle, an X-Wing in here. But some Spanish figures, just a nice wide assortment. And the premise of this video is that prices continue to reach new levels of stupidity. I mean, I'll just be upfront with you. Some of the prices in this batch of auctions on eBay, I don't even know what to make of it anymore. I'm kind of becoming speechless and numb to these brand new price highs that we're seeing for a lot of, especially loose graded figures. I mean, it's just completely absurd, completely absurd. So you'll see in a little while what I'm talking about. But let's start with something that was very reasonable. This was a reasonably priced AFA 80 Princess Leia First 12 Hong Kong country of origin. Very nice example with the brand new casing style. Again, it was graded 80 and it sold for $180 plus about $11 shipping. That's a pretty good price right there. That's a pretty good price. I'd take that all day long for 180 bucks. I've seen them sell for that ungraded. So that, you know, a pretty decent price. I think what held the price down a little bit is that you do have maybe just the slightest hint of yellowing to the torso versus the legs. You can see that that color shade is just slightly different there. But that's still a really nice figure, and I think it's every bit of an 80 grade, near mint. This was also the brown hair and belt. Again, I can never tell the difference. I guess that's brown. I guess that's brown. I mean, it's just so hard to tell the difference between the brown and the black hair and belt. But it looks more brown. Put it this way, it looks more brown in this photo than in some of the other ones that have been labeled brown hair and belt in our market updates. But that was a nice figure and a fair deal, I thought. On the other end of the spectrum, we have this one. I mean, this is unbelievable. This was a double telescoping Luke, AFA 85. Okay, so a really nice example. I'm not, you know, look, this is an incredible figure, and certainly a very desirable figure. But you have to remember, we just literally saw one of these at the exact same grade sell about maybe 2 months ago. It was an AFA 85 double telescoping Luke Skywalker Farmboy, and it sold for about $3,000. And we were saying how crazy a price that was. Well, this one sold for almost $4,000. It sold for $3,907. That is a 20 to 25% jump in 2 months. That is just an incredible jump. And believe it or not, this is not even the most absurd jump I've seen in a specific figure. We'll get to that a little bit later on. I did want to show you guys a few other kind of UKG. There was a lot of nice UKG graded examples. And I get this a lot from my subscribers that I don't do enough coverage of items overseas in the UK. So you guys are in for a treat because I found a lot of nice UKG graded items that we're going to talk about. This is one that was a dual cased Han Solo. They were both graded UKG 85, and you know, essentially this is the small and large head Han Solos. We just did the figure focus on Han Solo here recently. You're welcome to go back and look him up at my channel. It's the first 12 figure focus for Han Solo. But anyway, this is a UKG graded, and I think what kept the price down, it sold for 161 pounds plus another $60 shipping. I think what really kept the price down is that, you know, the casing is the older style case from UKG, so these figures can kind of jostle around a little bit. And it does seem like some collectors who do collect graded figures, that they don't particularly like these, because who knows how much damage just from the figure jostling around, you know, it can cause to the edges of the figure. And I have seen that happen. I have seen that happen with some AFA and UKG graded items where, you know, the older case style didn't really secure the figure tightly inside the case. So I think that's what held the price down on that. You know, it sold for $210 US or 161 pounds. Here was another nice one that I wanted to add to my collection because this is one of the few variants that I need for my loose graded TIE Fighter pilots. This was the No COO, and it was graded UKG 90%. That's a very nice high grade. These would be found on like the Palatoy Tri-Logos, I imagine, or just the straight Palatoy card backs. But a very clean, high-grade example, UKG gold graded. That one sold for $224 or 172 pounds plus the shipping. The issue is, for me, the shipping was another $70. So it would have been about 300 bucks for me. before state sales tax of another 10%, 9.25%. So it would have cost me $330, which if you think about it, for a 90 grade figure, that's probably still okay. I mean, you're doing pretty well. We all talk about how with AFA graded examples, going from an AFA 80 to an 85 to a 90, there's a massive price multiple. And I think that for a 90 grade UKG, it's the same kind of experience and with CAS 90s, things like that. So I'm not trying to say it's not worth that. I just think that for me to pay an extra $70 on top of that just for shipping was a little bit much for me. But this is one figure I would like to get, is that no COO, because I do have the Spanish PBP, I've got a Hong Kong, I've got a Lily Letty, and I got a bunch of bootlegs. So that's one I would like to get. I know I've got the China. I've got the China COO as well. So really nice one. We're going to dig in now to some beautiful Spanish figures that this seller had. I've never dealt with this seller before, but I did order one from him last week. So we'll see how that arrives. But it's a new account, so it could be an older, seller that's changed accounts. Who knows? But this was a beautiful Spanish Stormtrooper. This is the Spanish POC, early Spanish figure. It was graded 80% by UKG. My gut says that if this was graded by AFA or even probably CAS, my gut says it probably wouldn't get to 80. It probably would get a 75 plus. I think that 80 was a little generous just given the yellowing to the arms. And, the black paint on this figure for the most part is pretty good, but the inside of one of the hands there has got some wear. So I think it's probably a little overgraded. And that's probably why the price was held down. It went for 155 pounds or roughly $202 US. I would argue if that was a little bit wider, a true 80, a better 80, so to speak, that probably would have been closer to $300 or more. So again, it's a beautiful figure. I certainly am not disparaging it. I would love to have this figure without question. I just think that for me, me personally, I think this is probably just a little bit overgraded. But it looks awfully nice in that case. So again, Spanish Stormtrooper, tough to find those. Here's another one. This is the Obi-Wan. This is the Spanish POC Obi-Wan. It was graded 75, and again, I think that's a pretty generous score, just given the paint wear to the hands. This is the POC Pale Hands Obi-Wan. It also has discoloring to his limbs, to his arms there. As you can see, it's kind of turned color a little bit. And that's very common with the plastic type that was used for these Spanish POC figures, and the paint that was used. It just degrades rather quickly. It's a very poor paint application, but what a gorgeous figure no matter what. It was graded 75, and that sold for $300 US or about 230 British pounds plus shipping. I think that's a fair price. I mean, even factoring in if I had to pay $81 for shipping over here, that's $381 for an early Spanish Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that's a pretty good price there. I cannot comment without referring to the guidebook as to whether this saber is correct. I know that the PBP saber has a very thick tip, but I would imagine that that's not true for the POC. The POC would have the thinner tip since it used Hong Kong parts, but the Spanish PBP, the later Spanish version of Obi-Wan, is like the Lily Letty, and it has a very thick tip saber, but that's definitely not what that kind of saber is. But I don't think it has to be. Since they're using Hong Kong parts for that early Spanish figure. This is one of the more desirable Spanish figures that's out there. This is known as the Chocolate Legs Han Solo, and you can see that very dark, deep chocolate color for the legs. And the label, let's see how he labeled it. I love the fact that UKG embraces the common terminology among collecting experts of Spanish figures. So Javier Ruy Lopez's book, he often calls it the chocolate legs. And that's what they did on the label, and I love that. AFA would have come up with some dark brown legs. Come on, just call it the chocolate legs. That's what all collectors know. I mean, they call it the light green limbs for the Bosk. It should be toxic limbs Bosk. Everyone calls it that. So I love the fact that UKG embraced that, and it was graded 75%. Again, maybe a little. Let's see if we can get a better close up. Maybe a little generous, but I think this is more of a 75% than the Obi-Wan, in my opinion. Had some flaking to the paint on the white gloves as well as on part of the leg there and at the feet. But this is a very desirable variant within the Spanish PBP and POCs. And the price reflected that. It sold for $306 US plus shipping. You know, again, a higher grade probably would have touched maybe even $500 US for a very high grade example without any kind of paint defects. So I think for that price point, that's a pretty good price. I would have paid that myself. This was a beautiful figure that he had. This was a 90 grade molded face Luke Jedi. How gorgeous is that figure? Absolutely gorgeous. This is the made in Taiwan snap cape. Look at that gorgeous molded face Luke. That's one I'd like to get. I don't have that one. And I thought that price was great. You know, again, I don't know about matching the accessories and whether these accessories are factory correct and all that. I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. Before I bid on this, I do know several Luke Jedi experts. Scott, who watches my channel, he's absolutely a Luke. He could look at this and tell you right now whether these accessories are correct or not. My buddy Chris K, he's a Luke Jedi master. He knows these very well. That one time on YouTube, he's a Luke Jedi know-it-all. And so, you know, I don't pretend to know everything, okay? And I don't even want to know everything. What I want to know are the people that know everything about a certain character. So for Yoda, I go to my buddy Dustin B. For Luke Jedi's, I'd go to one of those 3 people that you named. So they would be able to look at these accessories and tell you whether they're correct for that molded face Luke. But no matter what, I thought this looked amazing, and I would have loved to have bid on it, but I've just spent all my money for a while. I've got some really nice stuff coming. But that sold for $384 US or 295 pounds. I think that's a great, assuming those accessories are correct, are factory correct, that was a great deal. Again, this seller also had this one. This is the R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber, last 17. Really nice. That saber looks a little wonky, but so what? It was graded 85%. 1985 date stamp on that R2, which I didn't know. And I was talking to offline about this to Blacked Out Ewoks, but the R2-D2 pop-up has a 1985 date stamp. The sensor scope usually has a 1981, and then obviously the original first 12 has a 77. But there's a lot of mixes and matching with 77, 81, and 85s across all 3 of those figures because they just had an interchangeable body. You know, the main torso is basically interchangeable on these. So it's a really interesting thing that I just now found out about, and I've got an example of the R2 sensor scope with a 1977 date stamp coming. So I just thought it was a cool variation that I picked up. Anyway, back to the prices. This last 17 figures sold for $10.50 or 805 pounds. Sure, why not? That's about going rate for a last 17 R2-D2 pop-up. This was another really nice example. This was a UKG 80% battle damaged X-Wing that was loose graded by UKG. I like this case a lot because they used really sturdy brackets around the thrusters on the back of the ship and some nice brackets around the wings there. It looks very sturdy. So my buddy Chris over at Rogue 5 Toys bought this one in the auction. I hope it arrives to him safe and sound from the UK. So we'll be able to hopefully take a look at that in a live stream at some point. That one sold for $513 US plus shipping over here. You know, let's call it about $580, $590. That's a really cool loose display. And Chris has a wonderful loose graded vehicle collection, so that will fit right in with his Slave One and all the other mini rigs and everything else he's got. But congrats on that pickup, Chris. That's a beautiful example. Here was a Palatoy ESB Han Solo Hoth. This looks like the PBP figure. Let's see what it says. It doesn't say. This is a 30 back, but that face looks awfully pale. It just might be the yellowing of the blister there. But it was graded 70%. The subgrades were 65, 80, and 80. So it had a really nice high subscores for the figure and for the blister, even though it was yellowed. But, you know, looking at that figure there, it looks awfully like the pale face, you know, purple coat Han Solo PvP. I have no idea if that's the case or not, but that's what it looks like. Again, that sold for $829 or 635 pounds in an auction. Really gorgeous, unpunched example. I mean, it was lower grade for the card back, but so what? This is an awesome Palatoy card back, and just very tough to find these in general. And just a gorgeous item there. And, you know, something else we've talked about here recently, especially as it relates to the Hakes auction results, is that clear blister Return of the Jedis are spiking. Everyone is going after these clear blister Return of the Jedis. And I think this was a fair price. I'm not trying to say it's not a fair price, but it was also a big price. It was for a Lando Calrissian in his Skiff Guard disguise. This is the 65 back B. You had two things going for this one. It was an AFA 85, which always commands big multiples, and it was a clear blister. Look how beautiful and clear that blister still is. Tough to find, unless it's a Lily Letty made for the U.S. market. Those tend to have clear blisters. But these standard U.S. Kenner cards, they very rarely have clear blisters like this. So it's a really rare thing to find. And it sold for $451. That's a big number, but I really think it's pretty fair, quite honestly. I mean, that's just, with all the data points we've seen at Hakes and elsewhere, I think you have to consider that to be a pretty good deal for an AFA 85. Even though it's a fairly common figure, and it was punched, but that's a good price in my opinion. I would have paid that. Another good example was this one. This was a 65 back A Forlom, and that one also had a clear blister, it looked like. Really nice example there, unpunched as well, and it was graded 80, 80, 85 for the subgrades. Beautiful example. It sold apparently for $425. I think that I didn't look up the 130 point to double check that, because I think that was the starting list price. So somebody offered over that before the auction started, and he accepted that offer. So it's probably not $425. Again, I didn't look it up on 130 point, but I'm guessing it's probably closer to 500 or above for that beautiful Forlom. Okay, now this, going back to SW Seller again, he had some other really gorgeous example figures. This one was the R2-D2. We just covered his double telescoping Saber Luke, and this was an AFA 80 straight R2, the first 12 R2. That sold for $190 plus $11 shipping. The cool thing is that another exact same figure, exact same grade, sold on the exact same day, and that is this one. This is a AFA 80 R2-D2, and so exactly the same figure, and that one sold for exactly $200 with free shipping. So roughly $201 versus $200. So if you're looking for an AFA 80 Hong Kong R2-D2, now you know your price. It's exactly $200. That's the fair price to pay for an AFA 80. Now conversely, to go from an 80 to an 85, this was the result. It sold for $577.88. Now, in all fairness, this was CIB. This is Collectible Investment Brokerage, who's affiliated with AFA. So they ship worldwide. And their auctions, because they are such a known entity internationally, that a lot of the big whale buyers will only deal with these guys on eBay. They don't want to deal with private individuals, but when they see that it's Collectible Investment Brokerage who's handling the sale, and that's the seller account, these do tend to attract international whales, and the prices reflect that. Again, $577.88 plus $10 shipping to go from an 80, which is about $200 to 85. You're looking at at $580 or so, $585. So just keep that in mind. Just to make that small jump, you're paying over 2.5 times difference in price. CIB also had an AFA 85 Monomon. That one sold for $401.90 plus $9.90 shipping. I think that's a very fair price for an AFA 80 last 17 Monomon. Brand new casing style. That was a gorgeous figure and very fair price in my opinion. And he also had this Luke Skywalker China COO graded 85 plus. So a very, very high grade China. That's what the CH stands for on the label. Blonde hair, dark pants, 85 plus, very, very high grade. And the price again reflected that, $1,009. I think I have an AFA 85 China, exactly the same pant and hair color, and I paid less than half that price. So it just shows you the jump going from an 85 to an 85 plus. It's substantial, but it was a gorgeous figure. Just really pretty. It looks pretty much flawless, really. It's just amazing quality. All right, now here's the one that I referenced at the beginning of my video, where I think that for certain figures, like Boba Fett, prices have reached a new level of stupidity. And I'm not calling the buyer of this figure stupid, because if you have the money and you want to throw it around, it's your money. You can do what you want. And investing in Boba Fett's are always going to be a good investment. I just question whether this price makes sense or not, given some of the recent data points we've had. This was an AFA 85 light blue painted head Taiwan Boba Fett. Of the licensed figures, excluding like Lily Letty or the Spanish Pox and some of those, the Meccano, French Meccano examples, when it comes to Hong Kong and Taiwan's, the Taiwan light blue painted helmet Fett is the most desirable one. And this had the correct version 5 black Imperial blaster. archival case. So this is as good as it gets, really. I mean, this is one of the best possible Taiwan Fetts. It sold for $2,400, though. $2,400 is an insane number. We just documented less than 3 months ago a couple of examples that sold. 2 of them were AFA 80s, or excuse me, AFA 80 plus. So just 1/2 notch lower than this 85. And those AFA 80 pluses sold for around $900 to $1,100, which I thought was crazy then. But to go from $900 to $1,100 for an AFA 80 plus to $2,400 for an AFA 85, I mean, that is just an insane premium, and easily one of the highest premiums I've seen. And this sets, in my mind, this has to be a new record for an AFA 85 painted head Boba Fett. I've seen several of these in this grade that have sold in the Facebook groups for anywhere from, I thought, an absurd price of $1,500 to $1,700, maybe as high as $1,900. I mean, I thought those were just approaching stratospheric numbers. But $2,400 is a massive number. That's the biggest number I've seen for a light blue painted head Fett. But congratulations to CIB on another successful sale. That's a big, big number. All right, this seller also, this Browns 8888, always has really nice high-grade figures. He had an AFA 85 no COO Chewbacca. That one sold for $143.50 plus shipping. I thought that was a great deal. Great deal. Brand new case style. No COO. That's probably the kind of thing you'd find in like a Palatoy or Tri-Logo, things like that. Just a gorgeous example of the Chewbacca. And this is the one I really wanted, but this thing shot way past any price point I was willing to pay. This was the gray hair Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was graded 85. Brand new case style. Gorgeous example. I love those dark mascara eyes on the Obi-Wan, as we talked about in the first 12 figure focus for both Obi-Wan as well as for Han Solo. They, that deep mascara paint app for the eyes is pretty cool looking with that dark gray hair. So this was a gorgeous example. I was hoping it would stay under $300, but it sold for $430 plus shipping. It's a big number. I think anything, Obi-Wan and Vader AFA 85s have made that next level jump to kind of, they're starting to equalize in price with high-grade farm boys, is what I've noticed. And that's kind of a newer phenomenon. That's just something I've noticed over the last 3 months or so, but something to keep in mind. This was a CAS 85 Biker Scout, and I forgot which variant this was. Bear with me here. This was the Long Mask Taiwan variant. So this is a nice, a really pretty example of the Long Mask Boba Fett, the Long Mask Biker Scout. Very clean example, nice bright white with no yellowing. Nice case style for the blaster pistol. That one sold for $160 plus shipping. I thought that was a pretty good price for a CAS 85. Pretty good price there. Here was another CAS 85. This was the Imperial Gunner, last 17, and it was encased with the weapon, obviously, as well as the Power of the Force coin. And that's a gorgeous setup. I really like the way CAS encases those. And this was graded in 2020. That's another thing I do like about CAS is that you don't have to go to any kind of, census or anything like that to know when they were graded roughly. It doesn't give you the exact date, but at least it gives you the year. So it's nice to see that on the label. I wish that all the companies would do that. Anyways, graded CAS 85. That sold for $457 on 42 bids. I think that's a pretty fair price as well. I very regularly see that kind of figure sell for 300 plus, 350 ungraded. So I think that's a very fair price. Here's a baggie. I wanted to throw this one in. This was best offer accepted, $75 for a heat sealed baggie for the B-Wing pilot. This one was on my watch list. I was thinking about it, but I decided not to make an offer. But that was a pretty good deal, I thought. $75 best offer accepted plus $10 shipping. So probably in that, all in, probably $80 range, somewhere in that ballpark. Another pickup. I won't say who, Chris. But somebody's been spending willy-nilly here. But he picked up this, and I thought this was a great pickup and a great deal. This was an AFA 80, untouched, still sealed in that factory wrapper, Empire Strikes Back action figure carrying case. Again, it was an AFA 80. I think what someone told me was that Brian Toys had a bunch of these, and he's been selling them off slowly. So that's why we keep seeing more and more of these AFA-graded action figure cases showing up in these market update videos, because apparently he's got a number of them. But this is the one that has the Wampa in the upper right-hand corner. This is one of my favorites because it's got that the Cloud Car pilot, and it's got the fight with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker on Bespin in the, carbon freezing chamber. Just a great, great box art. I love that box art a lot. Just really cool. And I thought it was a great price, $660. We documented several of these in that same grade or thereabouts. It might have been 80 plus that have sold for $900 plus. So $660 was an absolute steal, I thought. So congratulations to Chris on that one. And this is one I bid on. I actually bid on this one and I lost, and I came close to winning it. But this was a clear blister Luke Skywalker. This was a 65 back A, and you can see it's got the Toys R Us sticker on the back. Pretty clean example, though. I don't know what it would grade at, but I thought it was worth rolling the dice on it. And I think it would be a low grade 80 would be my guess. Maybe a 75 plus, but I think it would get an 80. A little bit of wave to the card, but look how beautiful that blister was. And it was just crystal clear. It's got that stamp, manufacturing stamp in the lower right-hand corner of the blister. I put in a pretty aggressive bid as time was expiring, and I lost by $5. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because you got to remember, I'm in Tennessee. We don't have a state income tax, so we had to pay a high state sales tax on everything we buy. And my state sales tax is 9.25%. So I bid like $465, I think, and with shipping, that's $475. But after paying sales tax, it would have been closer to $520. So that's about the max of what I was willing to spend on it. So I think there were two bidders ahead of me based on the bidding history. So congratulations to whoever won that. And if you happen to be watching the channel and you don't want it anymore, then, maybe we can work out a deal down the line. But no, I really think it's a great buy. It's a really nice example. It had a little bit of specking there on the racetrack there and on the left-hand side of the card. I still think it would get an 80 grade, though, but who knows? Anyway, just some more data. I thought it was a great, nice, wide spectrum of items, everything from ungraded mint-on cards to action figure cases to loose graded vehicles, loose graded figures. It's just a nice wide assortment of stuff. UKG graded stuff for you guys across the pond who watch. Shout out to everybody over there who watches and to the Australia, New Zealand. Thank you guys so much for watching my channel. I really appreciate the channel support from all my Patreon members, and I'll be back soon with some more videos.